Thanks very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Sanjoy and Namita, for the launch. And thank you, sir, very much for not giving up when you found that you were in the wrong hall. And coming here, I'm reminded of a time when there are now just two people I can think of to whom I would go, like many, many others, to feel comforted, to feel that that life will be all right and the world will be all right. So one, of course, is now Dr. Karan Singh, and there was Khushwant Singh, who also, when you would go there in the evenings, of course, for an hour. And that is why I first met Dr. Karan Singh. Of course, I'd known about him, so many others, but I first met him there, and I think he left early because he had somewhere to go, and I was with Khushwant Singh for a while after that. And he said, if people who are running this government, I think it was the UPA at that time, had any sense, he would be president. And we had also heard of the possibility of Dr. Karan Singh becoming India's president, and it just seemed like such an obvious choice, which of course didn't happen. There's a little bit about that in the book as well, which when you read the book, you read about that. But to me, as to many others, the grand idea, the great dream that was India at independence, the cusp of independence and immediately after, and which continues to be, regardless of many things that may not have gone as well as they should have. And there are very few people today, especially, who represent that idea, who embody that idea. And to me, Dr. Karan Singh is one of those people. So the first question I wanted to start with, Dr. Singh, was to you. Taking this idea forward of, the idea of India, and as I said, to me, in many ways, you represent that. And that was a choice that you made when you were very, very young. And it was to affect not just your public life, but also your personal life. To put it simply, the choice that you made between the old monarchical, let's say, feudal order that you had been born into, and this great idea of India, the choice you made, in a sense, between your father, two strong personalities, your father and your mentor, Jawaharlal Nehru. So could you talk a little bit about that? How easily did that choice come to you? How were you able to make that choice?
It was not an easy choice, let me tell you, because, you see, we grew up listening to Jawaharlal Nehru and reading his books. So I was also an idealistic young man, and I wanted to be part of this new India. Jawaharlal ji talked about the exciting adventure of building a new India. I wanted to be part of that building. I realized that the feudal order was passing away. My father also was a very powerful figure, a very progressive ruler in his day, but nonetheless, the days of the Rajas and Maharajas were going to disappear. And I wanted to be part of what was coming in the future. So rather than go to the past, I chose the future. And for me, Jawaharlal Nehru epitomized what I looked upon as the future. I don't think any of you can realize at all the sort of excitement that we felt when India became free. It was a terrible thing with the partition and all, but nonetheless, the euphoria of becoming free is something which, you have to feel it to realize it. So I wanted to be part of that, and that was what led me to take the decision, which, as you said, had profound implications for my public life as well as my family life.
Could you talk a little bit, if you feel I'm pushing you, then you can say, no, I'm not going to answer it. A little bit more about that. How exactly did it affect your public life and your personal life?
Well, it affected my public life in the sense that I became regent at the age of 18. My father appointed me. Then at the age of 21, when Sheikh Abdullah was in full power, at that time, they abolished the monarchy, so-called, and they created a new constitution in which the head of state was Sadr-e-Riyasat. Now they offered me the Sadr-e-Riyasatship. The question was whether I should accept it or not. Many of the Jammu people and the Dogras felt that Sheikh Abdullah, having in a way exiled my father and having all his life spoken against the Dogras, how can I go and sit in a post that he has created? But I realized that it was not Sheikh Abdullah's post. It was the new constitution of J&K that was being built, of which I was part and which I signed into law, by the way. So I said, no, I will accept it. After a lot of cogitation and a lot of, what should I say, a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty, I decided no, I was going to accept it. And I remember, in fact, when I went to Jammu after that, it was a line of black flags from the airport all the way to where we lived in Harinavas. But then the next year, after I had dismissed Sheikh Abdullah, then they all said, "Bhi, wo bada acha kehta ji, tuse mao kali jhandi kuthe gayiyan? Wo kaddo na kaliyan jhandiyan hun, jehde tuse rakhi hain mere liye." So I laid it back to them. So ultimately, that I was in the head of state, then I became Sadr-e-Riyasat 3 times, then I became governor, then I went into Mrs. Indira Gandhi's cabinet. So my whole political career began from there.
In a sense, it was, I think people need to, some of them do, I don't know how many younger people do, is how defining that was about, the integration of Jammu and Kashmir with India, and you were instrumental in that. Were you working closely with the Indian government at that time? I know Sardar Patel met you, and the Sardar Patel met your parents when they finally decided that you should become regent. Nehru was always in correspondence with you, advising you, and you also, at that age, were advising, in a sense, the Indian government, saying what could go wrong and what they should be mindful of. Do you, looking back, do you feel astonished by what you were doing at that age?
Well, in a way, I do feel astonished, you're right. But let me say a word about Sardar Patel. He came to Jammu in 1949 when I was on a wheelchair. I had been on a wheelchair for 6 months. So he came and he asked my father, "Ye kursi pe kyun hai?" उन्होंने कहा, "जी 6 महीने से हम इलाज कर रहे हैं, he is not getting any better." He said, "Maharaja साहब, अभी इनको अमेरिका भेजो, नहीं तो सारी उम्र ये wheelchair पे रहेगा." And it was as a thanks to Sardar Patel that I was sent to America, where I had an operation. That's all been described in your book. But nonetheless, I was able to play golf and play tennis, and I was able to move around. So Sardar Patel was always very, very kind. I stayed as his guest in Dehradun guest house before taking up my assignment as Sadr-e-Riyasat. He was always, and Jawaharlal ji, of course, as you say, was my mentor. So I was working, yes, closely with them, with these great people. It was a privilege.
I'll come back to that, the New York year, because that I think is very significant. You yourself say that, anyway, we'll come to that later, but I wanted to ask you, so I can't say Mr. Singh, Dr. Singh. So I'm going to say Mr. Harbans.
Mr. Harbans Singh.
Mr. Harbans Singh. This is an authorized biography, and of course it's turned out to be, as I think you were telling a media person who was speaking to you right now, that unke ek sampurna Karan Singh, you'll find here, a complete Karan Singh here, because he's written his autobiography, which stops, I think, at the time when he, up to the time, to the end of his Sadr-e-Riyasat thing, and then there's an update, but that's essentially it. And he's had a very long life, public life after that as well, which you've written about in this book. But I wanted to ask you related questions. One is, when you were asked by the Karan Singh Foundation to do this biography, you were of course surprised, but I remember you telling me that you said, "But why were you even thinking of anybody else? ये तो मैंने ही लिखनी थी." And so that in the context of your 3-volume history of modern J&K that you've written, a monumental work, and the second volume in that, the subtitle is The Karan Singh Years, and which immediately tells you just how significant a personality he is in the life of Jammu and Kashmir and therefore also India. So can you talk a little bit about how you thought that obviously it was the obvious choice, you should have written it, and yet the burden of this really complex and vast story through his life that you were going to tell. What was the experience like?
Thank you very much. The fact is that I had no choice but to write this biography. I had been writing about J&K. I had been writing about Dr. Karan Singh also, not only recently when I completed that 3-volume history of modern J&K, but since 90s. But all that I knew was Karan Singh as a public figure. The official face of Karan Singh. I really did not know Dr. Karan Singh as such. And when this opportunity came, the fact is that I grabbed it with both of my hands. Though I would also say that it was my destiny. I was destined to write this book. The second volume that relates with his public life as a regent and as governor, Sadr Riyasat, before he leaves for Delhi. Now I realize that he is much more than that. I am also in my 79th year. I have seen most of the events, important moments. Say, I remember since 1956. I was 10 years old. I recall most of the events that have happened in India. And I realized that he is the person who was always in the thick of those moments. I would narrate one incident which should show that how he has been part of the bigger moments also of India's history. He was in Delhi when Khrushchev and Bulganin, they came visiting to India. And he was ready to go back when one of his ADCs, he said that big leaders are coming, so let us see what happens here. So he stayed back. The dinner was there for, organized state dinner for Bulganin and Khrushchev. When Jawaharlal Nehru came to know that Karan Singh and his wife, Yuvraj and Yuvrani, they were both here. They were also invited. During a casual conversation, he remarked to Khrushchev that my state is the most beautiful state in the world. And why don't you come and visit us? He did not respond really. And he left for Jammu the next day, and no sooner had he reached Jammu that a message came from Jawaharlal Nehru that reach immediately Srinagar because you talked to Khrushchev and they have decided to come to your state. Now the significance of that state was that with the arrival of Khrushchev and Bulganin in the state in those times, was a statement to the rest of the world that Jammu and Kashmir is a part of India. From that moment on, I realized that he has been a very integral and an important part of the great adventure of building new India.
This was the time when the Kashmir issue was in the UN?
It was still in the United Security Council, and India was alone. The Western powers were against us, and Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, they were indifferent to the fate of India. So when Khrushchev, he announced there that if you are ever in trouble, he told the Kashmiris, and not only the Kashmiris, he told, the statement was addressed to the rest of the world, that if you people are ever in trouble, all that you have to do is that go right up top of the mountains and call us and we'll be there. So that is something which is very fascinating for me. And the other part which fascinates me is that he has never remained stuck with only one aspect of his life. He does not sit recalling that when I was regent, I did this. When I was Sadr Riyasat, I did that. When I was governor, I did that. As minister in Indira Gandhi's cabinet, these were the important decisions which I took. What has happened, he puts it in the past. And always, he finds out new challenges in life. He reinvents himself time and again. And I'm sure very soon we'll see another aspect being unraveled before us.
Well, I remember when we were, when the book was being done and I was talking to him about, he would say, kya hua tha, kya kuthupuji kitab? So, where's the book? What stage is it at? And I would say, well, it's being done. And at that one point, I think in one conversation, so I was talking to him about his many avatars, let's say. And he says, they're all part of me. From the beginning till now, I never allow myself to be fragmented. They're all part of me. I'm part of that world. And when something needs to be left behind, I leave it behind, move on, and there are. So something, new will soon emerge as well. But there's another question before I come back to Dr. Singh, which I wanted to ask you was, you being a Jammu Dogra, and I didn't know this because my knowledge is a bit rudimentary about those things, but, and Dr. Singh said, not only is he Jammu Dogra, he's also Rajput. I thought all Dogras were Rajputs, but, so I learned. So, and also as a great admirer of Dr. Singh, how difficult was it for you to remain objective? And do you feel that you have remained objective? Especially when you're talking about a complex issue like Kashmir, where you have competing parties and legitimate claims or on both sides.
Yes. Now, let me answer it this way. I am not going to give you a direct answer.
Okay.
In the morning, in the first inaugural session, there was a comment that a biographer, the problem of a biographer is that he suffers from a biographer's curse. And that curse is that you tend to identify yourself with your subject. So if I have done that, it is for the readers to judge, not for me to say. Or if somebody accuses me of being a Boswell to Dr. Karan Singh, then I'll plead guilty. The rest is for the readers after the book is in their hands.
So, Dr. Singh, I'll come back to you because Nehru and those times being defining moments and defining influences on your life and the choices that you made, especially in favor of democracy and a democratic order and a modern world that was being built. You also said that there's this period in your life which also contributed enormously to that, and that was the year that when you were in hospital in New York, bedridden most of the time. That it was also the most difficult, perhaps the most difficult time of your life, but also in a way it shaped you because you were exposed to a different world and you were there in that room with the radio all the time. You saw American society in operation, and radio, television, the newspapers, and I think that the US elections were on at that time.
Yes, state elections.
Right. So could you talk a little bit about that? Number one, looking back, where you say, that kind of experience can make you or break you.
Well, I was 18 months in plaster of Paris, not able to turn by myself. 18 months at the age of 16. So you can imagine what a challenge it was. And what I'm astonished at is not so much the politics, as to how as a young man I got through that without being broken. And went through operations and plaster of Paris and all, and nonetheless came out. So I think that was the divine grace. I can only ascribe it to that. But that year in America was crucial for me. The situation in J&K was very bad. My father and Sheikh Abdullah were at loggerheads. They were both there in the state at the time. I'm glad I got out of that. And I had a year in a totally new world. I mean, America for me was like a breath of not only a breath of fresh air, a blast of fresh air. The democracy, the way the newspapers worked, the way they ate, the way they spoke. So it was very, very important for me. I think had I not got out at that time, first of all, I would still be on a wheelchair and it would have been a terrible experience. But the fact that I got away at that time and was able to come back after a lot of decisions had been taken by the government of India, that was a great boon in a way, if I may say so. Although being in one hospital room for 11 months is not anybody's idea of fun, but nonetheless, that's what happened.
And that was also when your love for music generally, of course, but everybody thinks of it as your love for classical music, Hindustani, and also Carnatic, because Subbulakshmi being someone you admire so much. But your love for pop music, which then later became your love for rock music, that's where it started, because the radio was on all the time. This was astonishing. I was talking to him about this. Tell me a little bit about that time, I said, and he started singing humming some of the songs from that time. One of which you have to try to sing. One of which later he would sing to his children when they were little. What was that? Some Mexican-sounding, Spanish-sounding thing.
They're all sitting in the audience.
What is it? What is it?
Cuando le gusta, which means where are we going? So that was the song. Cuando le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta. Cuando le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta, le gusta. What are we doing? Where are we going? And what are we going to do? We're all going out to somewhere, the three of us and you. What will we see there? Who will be there? What will be the great surprise? There may be a little baby with dark and flashing eyes. You take a boat, you ride a cane, you take a goat, I'll ride a plane. How can we go? We haven't got a dime, but we're going, and we're going to have a jolly time. Quando le gusta, le gusta, le gusta. It goes on and on. Lovely song. I remember singing this to my children,
Right.
who are now the senior adults, my grandchildren.
And your grandchildren
I
now.
don't know if my grandchildren are here or not, but whatever it was, no, music has been part of my life, let me say. I learned folk music from my mother, Dogri music.
Right.
I learned classical music under my father's supervision, very strict. And pop music I picked up in America, Bill Haley and the Comets, long before Elvis Presley, and coming down all the way to Billy Joel, Whitney Houston, ABBA. That's where I stopped. So all those years...
Whitney Houston was after ABBA, sir.
ABBA and I can't remember.
No, I think you've forgotten. You said something like Dire Straits also once to me.
Dire Straits,
Yeah,
yes.
see, there.
I remember Dire Straits. But Billy Joel was my favorite.
Acha.
That River of Dreams, a lovely song he has. And I loved ABBA, Fernando.
Right.
There were some really fine songs then.
And also dance. You talk about the first time that you saw a Bharatanatyam performance and you were blown away, and you think that is the greatest solo dance form. When was that? Huh?
1955, we went south. My mother, my wife and I, we went. And the Madras festival was on, music festival. And I went to see it, and Vaijayanti Mala was dancing Bharatanatyam. I was absolutely blown away. From that day, I fell in love, not with Vaijayanti Mala, but with Bharatanatyam. I never miss a Bharatanatyam. My children know, pehle hi dekh ke I put on my diary, Bharatanatyam. I've been totally obsessed with that, particularly since I started worshipping Shiva. And he was the first dancer, mind you. He was a Nataradi. So this Bharatanatyam is very much part of my treasure, shall I say, that destiny has given me.
And the later with ICCR, your work with ICCR. Before that, of course, it was in 1967 that you moved out to Jammu and Kashmir, and
67 years.
You were the youngest cabinet minister.
At 36 years. And then after Indira Gandhi's time, I became chairman of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. And then the great dancer at that time was Yamini Krishnamurti. She was a fabulous dancer. All my children tease me that I must have had a great crush on Yamini Krishnamurti. Is that not so? But she was a great dancer. I think in her generation, she was outstanding. I mean, she was the sort of dancer for whom Bharata wrote his Natya Shastra. It really, she danced both Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi.
Right.
And it was a great joy to see her dance.
Right. There's just one brief thing, if you will talk, and then there's this question for you, Dr. Harbans Singh. Shiva, you mentioned Shiva, and also that relates to the other great aspect of your life, which has been of enormous importance to you, is, for lack of a better way of describing it, a spiritual life, pursuit of a spiritual life or a higher consciousness. And there was one period where outside India, where he had this great, that's the other thing, is great confidence in trying new things. And that was at one time where he was with somebody who said that LSD can be a tool to reach a higher state of consciousness, to connect with this higher, let's say, being. And so that experiment, you needn't talk too much about it if you don't want to, but that again was the dance. It was Shiva, right?
It was not in India, by the way.
Of course it wasn't in India.
So
where was California? No, California, where was it?
It was where it was legal.
Yeah, yes.
I just tried it once in my life, that was enough.
And
it was a glorious thing, the dance. I saw the dance of Shiva. I saw the whole universe dancing.
Right.
My body disappeared. My emotions disappeared. It was only the music and the dance. I mean, that is really something that even to this day, when I recall, it gives me a thrill of joy. You wrote about that?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, he did.
What have you written? I hope you law won't be after me or something after you.
No, they won't be after. It is just an extra.
I tried to understand what it was.
Yeah, to give people a sense of just how extraordinary it is, and you can see Dr. Harbans Singh. I don't think he normally would have been shocked by something like that. He said, but he's written about it as someone completely absorbed in the experience himself. There are 2 pages, wonderfully described, because you also kept diaries at that time. But Dr. Harbans Singh, before we conclude with a short speech that Dr. Karan Singh will make, I wanted to ask you specifically about what somebody has called his unrequited love for the people of Jammu.
Oh?
For the people of Jammu. He has, he's identified with them, worked with them greatly, but what is it like now, and you've looked at it historically, that one decision that he made, what was the kind of rupture that happened in terms of their relationship with him as, the future ruler, no longer the ruler, and the reconciliation if it happened? The reconciliation that did happen, if it did happen, because after all, he did with the constituency people of Jammu, because he did get elected, I think, thrice from Udhampur.
4 times from Udhampur.
4 times from Udhampur.
Once only I stayed in Jammu and I lost.
So what is it from you, also from a historical perspective? How do you see that? What has that relationship been like?
You can look at this from different angles. One is,
Upar karyo.
he has deep love for Jammu. There's no doubt about that. And the people also, they are genuinely affectionate of him. They respect him. Whenever he goes there, they would come, all of them, they would come just to pay respect, just to have a feel the aura which he spreads around there. He's happy there, let me say. But if you recall, Krishna was extremely fond of Vrindavan. But at the end of the day, he left Vrindavan. He also left Jammu because there was a wider world which was calling him. And if you want to broaden your horizon, you have to give up some aspect of the past goodbye. You have to say that. Otherwise, you cannot open a new vista. Your horizon is never going to widen. All his life, what he has tried to do is, he has improved himself, he has learned. He's a constant learner. And that is how he has reimagined himself and found a new way of engaging himself with the world and life.
I'm now trying to learn AI.
In his case, it's also not going into the outer world, the wider world of India.
You'll recall, my first title in my mind was The Many Lives of Dr. Karan Singh.
Yes.
I still feel that he has lived many lives and he can continue to live many more lives. He's alive to life.
Right. That's. I think that really is really a great way to put it. Always alive to life.
Oh, Lord Shiva's grace, I think, nothing else.
There's, he will, Dr. Singh will conclude with a short speech, so we have time only for one question, if there is one question, which we can take at this moment.
From the audience?
Yes, from the audience, yeah.
Anybody? I've silenced everybody.
Yeah, they want to listen to you, so yes, is there someone at the back? No, they put their hand down.
Can't hear you.
Can someone take a mic there, please? Yeah.
सर मैं आपको प्रणाम करती हूँ सबसे पहले आपकी विद्वत्ता को प्रणाम करती हूँ और उम्र के इस पड़ाव पर आपसे जानना चाहती हूँ कि डॉक्टर कर्ण सिंह बनने के लिए क्या करना होगा डॉक्टर कर्ण सिंह जैसा बनने के लिए
ऐसा है कि सीखते रहना चाहिए सारी उम्र आपने वो सवाल नहीं पूछा जो आप सोचने वाले थे why I prefer to call myself Dr. Karan Singh rather than Maharaja. Because Maharaja, I happened to be born in the right place, so automatically I became a Maharaja. लेकिन PhD के लिए तो मैंने इतना slog किया. So I always like to be called, I never wear any other gown, I wear my PhD gown. तो एक तो सीखते रहिए आप. नंबर वन, आपने कहा मेरी तरह कैसे होना, सीखते रहिए सारी उम्र और विरोध ना कीजिए किसी का, अपने दिल में नफरत ना रखिए किसी चीज़ के लिए, किसी व्यक्ति के लिए. ठीक है, कोई लोग दुश्मन भी होंगे, लेकिन नफरत, हेट इज़ अ वेरी करोसिव इमोशन, वो अंदर से खा जाती है आपको. तो नफरत छोड़ दीजिए और यथासंभव सारे विश्व से प्यार कीजिए, जो आपका आगे पीछे उनसे प्यार कीजिए और किसी का बुराई ना कीजिए. यही दो तीन बातें मैं कह सकता हूँ जो आपने पूछा.
Just to conclude, to take that idea forward, so all of mankind is yours in a sense, which, and for you, you've also said that you are an Indian, you are a Hindu, you are, you're interested in Hinduism, but you would describe yourself also as a global citizen.
वो वेदांत जो मेरी हिंदुइज्म है, that is based on the Upanishads, and that's inclusive. सहनावतु सहनौ सहनौ वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषाय. इकट्ठा काम करें, इकट्ठा मिलके कामयाबी प्राप्त हो. आपस में हमारी दुश्मनी नहीं होनी चाहिए. माँ तो शगाफ जो हमारे समाज में है, जो एक बार मुल्क को तबाह कर बैठा है और फिर से कुछ मुझे लगता है वो शगाफ बढ़ रहा है, दैट इज़ नॉट अ गुड आइडिया. हमें सबको लेना है इकट्ठा. We must include everybody in our thinking. In the interfaith movement in which I am involved, that is what I have done all my life. I come from a Muslim majority state, for God's sake. तो जैसे हम अपने मंदिरों में जाते थे वैसे ही उन मखदूम साहब भी हाज़िरी भरते थे, चिराग शरीफ भी हाज़िरी भरते थे. और लाहौर से तो हमारा परिवार उठा, इसलिए दरबार साहब तो हमारे लिए बहुत ही पवित्र है. और क्रिश्चियन स्कूल, आई वेंट टू कॉन्वेंट, दैट वाज अ क्रिश्चियन स्कूल. तो मेरा तो बचपन में ही इंटरफेस हो गया था सारा.
यही, I mean, this is what, why I say that, that the great dream that was India, the grand idea that was and still is India, here's the best embodiment of it. So, Thank you for living the life that he could write about. Thank you for writing this book, and thank you for trusting us with it.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you, and thank you all
for
for
publishing
being.
such a nice book.
आपकी कहानी है तो. Thank you all. Thank you.